Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I would like to be the moderator for these sessions. Before we would like to begin the sessions, I would like to read and introduce our speakers today, Bapak Yanuar Kurniawan. He's the country head organization, talent development, and organizational culture of Lazada Indonesia and Lazada Logistik. Bapak Yanuar Kurniawan was also the VP of Organization, Talent Development, and Organization Culture in Lazada Indonesia and Logistics. Bapak Yanuar Kurniawan also obtained his MBA or Master of Business Administration in Finance, Strategy, and Entrepreneurship from Globis University, Japan, and selected as top 5 students. Bapak Yanuar Kurniawan obtained his Bachelor of Commerce from University of Melbourne, Australia, with first class honors, and Bachelor of Economy in Accounting from Gajah Mada University, Indonesia. Okay, now I would like to invite our distinguished speaker, Bapak Yanuar Kurniawan, and please join me with inviting Bapak Yanuar Kurniawan with big round of applause.
So, thank you everyone and good afternoon. I think it's a pleasure to be back to this campus. I was an alumni as well. I was alumni like 2006, with around 2011. And now I'm in Lazada. When the committee asked me, I was still like on a VP level. I just promoted into vice president on this month actually. So it's a pleasure and let's have nice discussions on the today topic. So for this today topic, it's really about the role of the business platform in post-COVID entrepreneurship strategy. I don't think I have that much slide. And if we see on the agenda that I prepared for today, slide. So I will start with some of the research. Next slide. So basically I will start with, okay, some of the research about the digital customer trend pre and post the pandemic, and also the e-commerce market potential and the latest trend in e-commerce, and also the next step for the entrepreneur. How do you want to take the opportunities? Well, I mean, for me, basically, my background is in the people team as well. So later on during the Q&A, feel free if you would like to ask anything about the platform itself. And also if you are wondering, would like to ask anything about the people related, I'm also welcome to answer that kind of question as well. So let's start with the first one, right? This is some of the trends on the digital customers. Can we move to the next slide? So this is, I took from the report from Economy Southeast Asia 2021. So this is the report by Google, Temasek, and Bain and Company. Actually, it's also available online. So if you would like to read the full report, feel free to do so as well. I took some of the slides that is relevant for this afternoon discussion. The first one, if you would like to see, this is very interesting that if we are talking about digital customers, the pre-pandemic is 290 million. And this is across Southeast Asia. And if you see the new digital customer in 2020, actually it adds up 40 million people. And if we are looking at the first half of 2021, when the report is out, actually it's also adding up 20 more million. So during the pandemic era, 1.5 years from 2020 to the first half of the 2021, it's actually adding up 60 million digital consumer, which means that the trend is increasing. And it's very interesting to see how the customer behavior is changing as well. So if we can move to the next slide. If you guys see in this slide, this is basically the split of user by usage frequency and also split of users by their spending. And you could see on the two different color, the dark blue is basically remain the same and the light blue is those who is increasing. So if you see on the different category here, like groceries, actually 62% the usage frequency is increasing during the pandemic versus pre-COVID. Their spending also increased by 60%. And the second one is the food delivery. I think this makes sense since the impact of the pandemic also means that people are actually buying the groceries online and also they spend more on the food delivery, right? So how many of you are actually using GoFood or GrabFood or other food online delivery during the pandemic? I think we can reflect that on ourselves as well. And what is interesting is that the first four categories actually that's related with the e-commerce. So if we are talking about groceries, beauty, apparel, and the electronics are those that is actually selling on the e-commerce platform. And if you are talking video, this is more on the like Netflix, etc., right? That's a video thing. And music is all the podcasts, YouTube music, and ride hailing, those like Gojek and Grab. Now we have also Maxim, and I think there is also a new users coming in as well. So this is what is interesting to see what are the categories that is increasing. And if you see on all of the categories, pretty much those are increased. Those remain the same, probably like the electronics and also mostly the electronics, right? And the music. Next slide. And this is also interesting chart to see, right? This survey is actually asking how many percentage of new consumers in 2020 who continue using the digital service in 2021. Anyone would like to have the opinion why actually this chart is important and what does it actually mean? Those who are online, I think you can also type your thoughts, right? Why? What actually that this chart is showing us?
Okay,
Anyone? Yes.
let me try to answer.
Yes, sure.
I can say that it's important to understand the number of adopters of the number of adopters of digital economy on how many are remaining are continuing using the service in order to see the potential of understanding its growth and at the same time to understand its viability in future.
Okay.
Whether the boom was temporal or whether it will be continue to be growing in the foreseeable future.
Right. Thanks, John, for the answer. Yes, and it's actually correct, right? So if we are looking at this research, basically, if we have like 9 out of 10 continue to use in 2021, it means the trend is not a one-off trends, but it's more like something that is sustainable even into the future. And now it's actually very interesting because we are starting to enter the post-pandemic era. Of course, this is a challenge for those playing in the e-commerce field, for example, because people probably started to getting back buying into the malls and on the offline area. But those who actually are trying the online platform during the pandemic, there is showing the trends that they are keep continuing doing that, right? So if we can move to the next slide. So this is the things that we need to pay attention as a platform, basically. Why consumers stay or switch to alternative brands. So if you guys have the thoughts of selling things online, I think this factor is very important, right? First, it's very important to have the wider selection and also assortment. This is also work for the whole platform itself. So if you guys are going to and this is actually still the homework for us, how we continuously improving or increasing our assortment. Because the reason people are going to the online platform, they are expecting that they can have the wider selection of product, right? With the competitive pricing and deals. Because a lot of people are actually buying online when there are like a mega sale. Who are waiting for the mega sale to get the discount and then buying stuff, right? It's much cheaper even comparing the product that is sold on the shop offline. And the third one, it's really about the purchase experience. And if you are talking about the purchase experience as an e-commerce platform, we really need to be able to understand the whole customer buying cycle. From their opening the apps, from their selecting the products, how easy for them to get the discount, how easy for them to choose the size that they are needed, how is the explanation of the product is suitable. Like for example, if you would like to buy shirt, it's actually, you cannot try, right? If you are buying it on the online platform. So it's very important the seller actually is able to give you the exact size and also the detailed information. So when you are purchasing the size, at least you know that this will fit with your needs. And then if you are talking also about the purchase experience, it's very important that people get what is being advertised. And as a platform, I think this is our homework as well to ensure that the seller are credible. A lot of sellers are actually, they are posting one image and they are delivering different product. But on the other hand, yeah, usually that's those very cheap product, right? Shoes, 15,000, they just put something on the picture. So I think for us in the platform, this is also our homework to keep, tracking, identifying this kind of seller and try to, let's say, ban them, warning them if they didn't comply with our regulations. Because this is also affecting the consumer experience. And how easy for the customer to fill in the complaint, to give the review, to get the refund if they don't think that the product is actually the same with what is being advertised, for example. The whole overall experience is very important because then you need to be able to create an online experience that's similar with the offline experience. If you want to buy shoes, you can try on the offline experience, right? So I think that kind of the similar experience that we need to think of. Increase convenience, of course. And the convenience also, I think, relate with the overall ecosystem that we have, including the logistic, right? I think people will like if they can buy in the online platform and the product can arrive like immediately. They don't have to wait until a week, 2 weeks, right? I had an experience purchase in the online bookstore. It's cheaper, but it arrived like 6 months later. Even I already forget that I purchased this thing. Suddenly it just arrived in the mailbox, right? And then comprehensive payment options. Now there are various payment options that people can choose. Either they can do the cash on delivery, but of course the cash on delivery also has the pros and cons, right? Because the people here we also need to educate the customer. The cash on delivery, it's actually meaning that they need to pay the product before they open the boxes. Cash on delivery doesn't mean that the product arrive, they see, they don't like, they don't want to pay. It doesn't mean like that. It just means that paying in cash, the product that you receive. The second, people can pay using credit card. The third one, people can pay using the digital wallet. Usually that is the three that is common. And the fourth one, which is now becoming the trend, anyone can guess? The pay later, right? The convenience of credit. Of course, I think we also need to educate the people that they need to spend it wisely. A lot of people doesn't really understand. They only felt the convenience. They keep using the pay later, but they cannot pay. That's also something that is, I mean, at the same time, the ecosystem also need to educate the buyer as well. So this is basically it. Next slide. And then if we see the market potential in Indonesia specifically, right? Can we see? Next slide. So this is the overall Southeast Asia economy. And you can see that how the internet economies growth country by country in Southeast Asia. Indonesia on the top left, increasing 49% in 2021 from 47 billion GMV becomes 70 billion GMV. So it's 49% increase. And the forecast by 2025, it will be doubled into 146 GMV. And if you could see in Malaysia, for example, and 20% is on the annual basis, right? So this is the annual growth. Malaysia is from 21 billion become 35 billion. Philippines from 9 billion increasing 93% in 2021 becomes 17 and it increasing until 40 billion. Same with the Singapore, Thailand, and also Vietnam. That's the huge potential for the internet economy in Southeast Asia. And if we see the next slide, from the breakdown, e-commerce is actually the biggest growth driver. So this number is the combination in all the countries. If you could see from all of the countries, e-commerce is growing 62% from 2020 to 2021. And it is expected to grow 18% per annum until in 2025 become 234 billion US dollar. And see on the internet economy, the other category like transport and food, it also growing in terms of the percentage is high, but then the if you could see the number of the absolute amount is actually smaller than the e-commerce. So this is what the different sector are actually showing the growth in terms of the percentage and in terms of the number. Again, if you are interested to see the full report, this is available online as well. The economy report by Google, Temasek, and Bain & Company. Next slide. So this is also interesting, right? If we see the growth is also consistent with the number of the merchants who are eager to join the e-commerce rocket ship, right? If you see in Indonesia, for example, search volume for merchant and seller related queries is increasing 18 times. In Malaysia, increasing 13 times. Philippines 9 times, Thailand 11 times, Singapore 3 times, and Vietnam is also 3 times. So this is how the overall sector potential is. This is from 2017 to 2021. Okay. Next slide. And then if you are looking at the investment, again, 2021 still on track to be Southeast Asia busiest deal year in recent times. A lot of investment are still coming in the Southeast Asia related with the internet economy. So you could see the trend, right? The light blue is the deal that is being invested into the unicorn, and the dark blue for the other company, right? And it's still thriving. In terms of the number, 2017, $9.4 billion US dollar, 2018 increasing into 14.1, 2019, 12, 2020, 11.6, with the breakdown 6.3 in H1 and 5.3 in the quarter 2, 2020. But if you could see on the 2021, even the first quarter is almost similar with the full year of 2020. So Southeast Asia deal landscape is thriving, driven by big ticket deals like GNT Express, 2 billion, Caro, 360 million. The number of transactions also increased 65% year on year. That's why Southeast Asia technology champions are helping to shine a bright light in the region, further strengthening the global investor confidence. This is very interesting, right? It also showing the potential in this sector. Because if the sector doesn't have potential, of course, the investor will not be there. The investment will not be coming in. So this is how the trend is. Next slide. Again, back to the slide before. Again, for the financial service deals, e-commerce and the digital financial services remains the center stage. You can see in the different color, the lowest one showing the transport and food, but the upper than that is actually showing the e-commerce. So a little bit brighter blue. If you look at the H1 2021 only, so the top, the right chart, the rightest chart, the big portion of the deals actually is in e-commerce on the 2021. The second big deals are the digital financial services, like the e-wallet, like the e-bank. Like in Indonesia, we have more and more e-bank that probably have less physical offices, right? Anyone can name, for example, the e-bank that has less physical office? Yes? Anyone? Apa? What? Huh?
I'm sorry, sir. Maybe
Bank
it's
what?
Neo Bank, sir. I think name.
Yes, Sofan? You
I
say
think
something?
I think it is Neo Bank, sir. Even
Yeah,
though
Neobank, for example, right? This is also the example. Yes. Bank Jago. Yes, that's also right. So that's the example of the trend that is also shifting into the digital financial services, right? And I think digital financial services is not only about the banking. I think there are also a lot of application for us to invest in stocks, for example. Very easy if you guys would like to buy stocks, selling stocks. A lot of application actually also cater for that. Even the traditional bank, they also started to providing this digital financial service as well. So this is still very interesting time for the e-commerce. Next slide. Again, and this is very interesting, right? The rocketing deal values in e-commerce is also mainly driven by logistics. That's why logistics is now the most attractive investment in e-commerce. And if you know, the GNT Express is now become like big logistic company, right? Those who probably heard less before the pandemic, now the logistic landscape is actually flourishing. And Lazada actually is having one of the best offering in terms of logistic services. And that's how we as a company have the comprehensive offering end-to-end, not only the platform, but also the logistic service as well. And this is also an interesting challenge for us, like as a platform, because not only we need to compete with the other platform, but we also need to compete with the other logistic company to keep providing the best standard service in terms of the logistic. Okay, next slide. And this is also interesting. So this is using the different report, a little bit older than the previous one. How online commerce is driving Indonesia economic development. But still, even though the research a little bit outdated, but I think it still hold true that actually the spending per active buyer is keep increasing. Probably you can reflect yourself before the pandemic and after the pandemic, your basket size on buying things online probably bigger now compared with before, right? That's the first thing. And the second thing, growth is actually will be driven by increasing tier 2 to tier 4 cities. So the tier 1 cities from this report is Greater Jakarta, which is Jabodetabek. And then tier 2 cities is cities like Bandung, Surabaya, Semarang. Basically, this is the big city outside Jakarta. And the growth is starting to be driven by those tier 2, tier 3 to tier 4 cities. And if you see the trends of the e-commerce, they are also starting to strengthening their presence outside Jakarta area, right? Of course, this is also needs to be aligned with the overall strategy as well. How is the logistic infrastructure, etc., etc. What are the purposes to be existed in that city? Is this because of the buyer concentration, or is this because of the seller concentration? Because as an e-commerce platform, you need to consider both. How is the seller density? How is the buyer density? If the seller density is high, we could be having the presence there in terms to storing the product to be distributed to the other cities in the populations, right? If the buyer density is high, then we need to think on the logistic infrastructure to be able to deliver to the buyer in the shortest time possible. So this is the factor that we need to consider. And next. And how about latest trend in e-commerce during the pandemic itself with Lazada example? Next slide. So this is the little bit old data, but I think it's still interesting to share. During the COVID, there is a fluctuation. So this is the June versus January based on sales volume, fashion and women's shoes, beauty, fashion and men's shoes, home decoration and lamp, bag and luggage. Based on sales growth, like it's all about gardening and outdoor living, and then health, sports and recreations, pet supplies, kitchen utilities. Because like people are now, by having time at home, they can take care of their garden, right? Comparing with before that they need to go outside, and it can be an activity for them to do at home as well. So this is the interesting facts on the category. And if you see on the right side, face mask is actually increasing a lot, especially in the earlier pandemic, right? Kurma is also increasing, dates, buah kurma, dates is also increasing, folding bike. If you still remember that in the early pandemic, biking become a trend. A lot of people suddenly become a bicyclist, right? They use that for the health as well. Women's robe is also increasing. And there is the movement from impulsive buying, so only buy because there is a discount, become daily necessity. So they buy all the daily necessity online as well. This is the trend that was happening. Next slide. And this is how the shift in trends, right? If the search about face mask in January 2020, before the pandemic, it's actually this product that is coming up. It's a really a face mask to make your face stronger lah, prettier lah, basically, right? But then face mask since March 2020, it's the face mask to cover because of the pandemic. So this is how the shift in the pandemic, the beginning of the pandemic. Okay. Next slide. And again, different research from Nielsen, the leader in terms of the market research, also showing that there was a movement from offline shopping to online shopping at the beginning of the pandemic. So can see that shopping at grocery stores become less often, visiting malls become less often. Those especially for those who answer that they plan to increase online shopping. I think it's very interesting that how consistent the data, the research from the different sources saying that the trend is there and the trend is not a one-off. This is something that would be long lasting and this is something that can be maintained after the pandemic. But I think this is also the question for all of the digital player, how they could readjust themselves after the pandemic era, right? Next slide. And I think this is the similar thing, but I would like to show because still interesting to see how the different categories on the different countries. And this research coming from BCG on the April 2020. So this is coming from the early pandemic, like household care become the trends, personal care, fresh food, packaged food in Indonesia especially, and the health supplement. Okay, next slide. So in response of the changing customer behavior and regulations, e-commerce, of course, is able to sustain growth during the pandemic. So this is the public group data. And if you still remember that the online shopping got the special attention during the large-scale social restrictions, right? Because there is a limitation, people need to shop online. And this is how, as a platform, we need to be able to take on the advantage back then. But now, because of the environment, the market that keeps changing, I think for us now is the time to start reflecting on how we can sustain the growth in the post-pandemic era. And that's the beauty of working in the e-commerce. You cannot do the same thing every time, right? Next slide. And I think this is very important that we need to be always innovative to attract the first-time buyer. Initial phase of the e-commerce, this is the only offering, right? The cash on delivery, online marketing, voucher, discount, etc. But now, the choices, the option is much more with the more innovation as well. Like for example, there is a special price for the first buying, or even getting the free products. There is the brand mega sales that usually happening on the midnight time, free shipping, offering cashback, referral, games, and etc. etc. And now I think with the latest trend that the e-commerce competition is actually not coming from the e-commerce itself, but also coming from the other online platform. Can anyone guess what are the recent competitor that is very aggressive entering Indonesia and starting to selling the product? Not the e-commerce. What? Yes, TikTok. So it's very interesting, right? How the completely different business model with live streaming, but becoming the competitor of the e-commerce. And that's also mean that how we need to also keep innovative. We also have the live streaming options in our platform, how we can leverage on that, how we can make that better. Now Lazada also refreshing the brands. So you can expect that in the coming weeks, we will have a nationwide campaign launch on the new brand refresh. And this will also coming up on the commercial ads on the television as well. Next slide. Again, this is very important that converting customer into loyal customer is a shared responsibility between the platform and also the seller. Why? Platform can provide an interesting options, an interesting user interface, an interesting activities like games, daily check-ins, campaigns, but at the same time, seller also need to do their part as well. For example, how they are active in the feed, how they are active in adding up the followers in the platform, how they are active chat with seller, right? Because it's very important, right? If you would like check and suddenly the product is not available. So it's the good seller needs also to maintain the communications with the buyer. Or let's say if the buyer have questions about the size, how is the size, what does it mean? Or if the buyer have any question about the car, etc. So I think it's very important that the seller also have someone that managing the live chat. Because it acts as a customer service, right? Your sales promotions boy, sales promotion girl, basically it's the chat with seller. Also live stream, if the seller also have an innovative live stream to sell their product, I think this also can help them as well. Again, the last one is about the shop promotion. Competitive price becomes something that is considered by the buyer. So this is also the responsibility. It's a joint, that's why it's become the joint responsibility between the platform and the seller to make it successful. So remember, if you eventually open up an online shop in either platform, you need to remember these things that you also play a part in terms of making your sales soaring. Okay. Next slide. Again, what factors that we should aware in regards on the digital platform? First, should offer promotions, discount, because this is the things that consumers is attractive. But then the question is, for the digital platform, for us, how we can grow sustainably? In which area that we need to give the discount, right? Because the resources is limited. We cannot afford to be in the negative profitability over and over. There should be a time that we change from the negative into positive profitability. That's why it's very important whenever we are talking about investment. Investment means for the digital platform is the marketing, is the promotions, is the discount. We need to understand what kind of category that we need to invest. And for us, being part of Alibaba, actually we have a tons of data that can help us in making those decisions. That's why the business insight, business intelligence is very, very important. Platforms should lower transaction fees for seller. Yes, but then actually this would affect our balance sheet, right? Because one of our revenue is coming from the transaction fees for seller. So how we make that balance? Like having the delicate balance between giving the appropriate level of transaction fees for sellers, because we also need to be competing with the other platform. If we have much more expensive, then no one would like to sell in our platform. They will prefer to sell into the competitor. But if we provide very low, then it also impacting our revenue. So this is the things that we need to always consider. And the third one, right? How we can entice customer to spend more through better UI. And I think this is relevant with the classic marketing advice. If you would like to sell, you need to ensure that people are spending more, right? By many things. You can give bundling product. You can actually give, like, if you purchase 3, you get more discount. Those kind of things that we can consider, right? Or it can be cross-selling as well. But then as a platform, we also need to support that with the better UI interface, user interface. The number 4, platform should help resolve issues with customer better. That's why we have a department dedicated for the customer service that are having conversation with the customer. So we know what are the customer pain point. How is the customer net promoter score? What factors that they are not happy with? How can we improve that kind of? So when you are working as a professional, it's very important to make decision based on always come, see the data, see the facts, numbers, and come up with the right solution after you understanding the right, not only understanding the symptoms, right? Again, the last one, platform should offer more integrated services. It means that we need to have payment processing that's seamless. People will have mentions, and also our logistic needs also to be having seamless process as well. And having digital wallet is actually beneficial for the customer in many fronts. The things that we face, like for example, when customer would like to ask for a refund, of course, get their money as fast as possible, right? But the issues is sometimes they provide the wrong bank account. So it means transfer is failed, we check the customer, they provide the bank account, and finger crossed as if now they are providing with the right one, right? If not, then keep continuing and then the customer keep complaining, refunded quickly. And if you can imagine, if we have like millions transaction, we have that like even percent of the million. So this is the things that we need to consider. So that's the things that we need to consider. The seamlessness of the overall experience of the customer. Next slide. Now, what would be the next step then? Okay. Next slide. Now is not the time to consider, now is the time to do. So if anyone would like to try selling in the online platform, then you can try, right? The trend, this is the summary. The shift of the online shopping is accelerated. Online shopper continue to increase. Government also gives special attention during the pandemic. Next slide. And then this is something that I would like to emphasize. So there is no silver bullet if anyone asks what are the tips to be successful in selling online, right? There is no silver bullet. We need to always innovate and evolve. Again, same with the traditional business. What we would like to consider? Do we consider the volume or the quantity of the product that we sell, or we consider the margin? We sell less but with a high margin. Some of our seller actually sell a very cheap product, but they sell in the large quantity of product. So they go with the volume. But some of the seller probably they don't sell that many, but the margin is huge or the basket price is expensive. That's also the choice. Again, the first quarter is very crucial and it needs the full commitment to focus on selling e-commerce. This is not something that you could do in like spare time. If you really need to make your e-commerce business soaring, you need to focus, put your focus here. Experience is the best teacher. Learning from competitor experience is even better. You don't need to go through the pain by yourself, right? If you can learn from other people. If you never tried, how would you know that you could be successful? Better late than never, but never late is better. Start from nothing, right? Learn the theory, practice, 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 understood the technique. Next slide. Again, the product listing is not enough. The real question is really about how could we be found and attractive for customer. Product pictures, starting from the product pictures that needs to be clear with a white background from the different angle so people are able to really understand what the product that you sell. Because if you are selling online, your sales promotion boy or girl is actually your product pictures. Complete product title and easy to understand. Direct access to your hero product because each shop will have their own shop interface, right? So you need to be able to direct your customer to your hero product. Customer love with discount and promotions. So we need to attract them with promo. Again, the online interface is your storefront. You need to give the touch that showcase your brands. Treat your online store as if you are opening offline presence. How you give your brand color there. Okay. It might seem simple, but the content, how your product looks like in the e-commerce platform is really the hygiene factor that needs to be always excellent. Next slide. Again, the fact is that it's not about the race to have the lowest margin, sorry. The fact is customer are really care about the money they spend. So it's very important on how we could sharpen our pricing strategy because we have like the daily competitiveness, there is the daily promotion, there is the mega campaign, there is the flash sale that will impacting the bottom line of your business, right? Because like let's say flash sale, usually you give a steep discount, but then you also still need to think on how your pricing is competing on the daily basis. Pricing strategy is important. So you need to understand how you price your product competitively. Because the slight difference with your competitor means a lot, right? If it's an online platform, very easy for the competitor to pick the shop that sell the lowest. So we need to be able to manage the pricing correctly. And then again, it needs to be combined with your promotion strategy, like shopping voucher, buy two, free something, bundling, buy more, save more, or the free shipping. Why the combination of this promotion strategy is important? Because if we are always cutting our price, we will not be sustainable. So sometimes it needs to be combined, right? It's not only about discount, but it can be you buy two, free something, you buy more, then you save more, etc. So you also need to know the different promotion strategy as well. Lastly, you need to be able to manage your product portfolio. What are the combination, the composition of your hero item? Probably is the low margin but the high volume. Hero item is the product with the low margin but the high volume, because your hero item become your traffic magnet. People come to your store because they want to buy this hero product. Once they are in your store, then you have a chance to convert them to buy the different products. So that's why you also need to have the core item with has the healthy margin. Probably the volume is less than your hero item. And to complement that, it's also important for you to have the complementary item, so that you are able to do the bundling, you are able to make people to shop more in your. So there is not much different from opening shop offline actually, right? Pricing strategy, promotion strategy, product portfolio. But now with the online, the pace is different, and how you as a seller also manage your product storage, product distribution. Also, you need to manage as well, right? The good thing is you don't need to spend more time to have a very nice shop shop space, but then you still need to invest, to have your warehouses. Or you also need to think on, do you want to buy the products from the producer, or you would like to manufacture your product by yourself? This is also the consideration that you can think of as well outside the e-commerce, right? So apart on the how you sell, actually the product creation, product value chain is pretty much similar with the offline things. Again, if you would like to sell online, you need to consider really the end-to-end from how you can get the product. The way to sell would be different, but the strategy is pretty much similar. Pricing, promotion, portfolio. Okay, next slide. So again, it's now the time to make close relationship with our customer, live chat, live streaming, tweet, make your store active. So this is the thing that you also need to do. You cannot have an online presence and then left that out. And then you expect that people will come and buy. No, you need also to be active to manage your online store as if you manage your offline store. Okay, next slide. Again, this is the final note for today. E-commerce market potential is huge, growth very quickly and start to reach non-tier 1 cities. COVID-19 changed the shopping patterns. E-commerce platforms always try to attract and convert new users. And there is a pattern that now we are involving sellers more into converting loyal customers. So the relationship between the platform and the seller becoming more important. And there is no silver bullet for selling online. You need to continuously do trial and error until you find the secret recipe. Again, 3 areas to start with to be successful selling online: content, promotion, and engagement. And some of the strategy would be pretty much similar with how if you would like to sell it offline, right? So that's why it's very important for you to learn about the pricing strategy, about the promotion strategy, learning about how to identify your customer, learning about what are the customer looking for so that you can know the product that would be the hot selling in the market, understanding the supply chain, etc. etc. Okay, and I think that's for my presentations. We can start with the Q&A and the round of discussions. Okay, so anyone would like to ask any question? I think we can start with those here first, and then if someone online have any question, I think can raise hand or also type in the chat box about the question as well.
Thank you, Mr. Yanuar, for a valuable insight about e-commerce trends post-pandemic. I myself also shoppers online, so it's related to me. So in your presentations, you mentioned about e-commerce platforms always try to convert new user. However, the pattern what they are more involving sellers to convert into loyal customers. So as we know that Lazada is one of Southeast Asia's leading e-commerce platform, right? So my question is, how is Lazada sees TikTok shops? And is there any Lazada strategy to beat TikTok shops, which now become growing fast, super fast lately? Thank you.
Thank you. So I think it's very interesting, right? How we see the other competitors that growing and becoming more and more the threats for us. That's why in Lazada, and I think this is also relevant with the other companies. It's very important for us always look the trend in the market and adjusting our strategy based on that, right? And then again, also at the same time, we are coming back to the something that is hygiene as well. Let's say we are keep always improving our user interface to make it easier for people to get the end-to-end experience. And then we are more using the data to put the focus into what are the categories that we would like to invest more so that we're using the resources effectively. Again, one of the things that we can make the customers becoming loyal is if they have a nice experience shopping. I mean, if your experience is bad, why don't you want to purchase again in that particular places? And relevant with the TikTok as well, we are also pumping up on how our streaming lives becoming more attractive. We are going to also have the new strategy on our last mall as well. The different with the marketplace, like more brands product there, to be our strong identity as well. So whenever people see us, they are able to relate what our strength. So that's basically the things that we keep on doing and keep on striving and keep on changing as well. In the digital economy, I think you cannot do the same things every year. You always need to think, to innovate, and thinking again the same thing, right? The post-pandemic, how we can be still relevant when people are coming back to purchase offline. How we can make the people stick, having the stickiness to our platform. So that kind of thing we need to answer as well. That's great questions. Thank you. Yes.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity and thank you for the presentation. So I am personally interested in the logistic side of e-commerce. Like, will major brand like Lazada or maybe Tokopedia can have their own logistic and supply chain system like Amazon, for example? Maybe they can deliver on the Java island at the start and maybe expand to whole Indonesia. in maybe next 10 to 15 years? Will we see that kind of system in major e-commerce?
So,
Independent logistics system.
so I think if we are talking, and thank you for the question, right? And if you are talking about logistics system, our logistic is starting when Alibaba start uh, becoming our major shareholder in 2016. There was a project to integrate all of the technology, including the logistic technology. There was a project called Voyager as well, basically to really integrate and how we are able to leverage the Chinese system, the logistic system from Alibaba. So if you are talking how, actually even now we are serving from Sabang to Merauke. We can deliver into far, far away. The system is there. We have lots of hubs, like hundreds hubs spreading across all over Indonesia, and it keeps growing. We have warehouses also spread out across the big cities, like we have one in Medan, we have in Surabaya, we have in Jakarta. That's also to cover all of that area. So in terms of the technology, we don't have to wait until 10 to 15 years because it's already here. It exists here. And if talking about logistic, it's really about the decision on how we can make a profitable logistic business as well. How we can do the delivery in the most effective and efficient basis. Because we cannot charge much if you are buying online. You know the standard delivery. If you would like to send packets, how much you have to pay usually?
I think it depends on the area, but maybe in like a instant where it's about 30,000 to 50,000.
30,000, but not instant like the regular one.
10 to 15.
10 to 15. Okay, similar. Do you know how much Lazada charge usually if I'm in Jakarta and delivery to Jakarta? Do you know how much? Usually it's only 6,900. So can you imagine if you deliver the package using the normal express, like the normal logistic services, it costs like 10,000 plus. We as a platform only charge 6,900 and it will be delivered within a week. Usually it's 2 or 3 days. Even in Jakarta, probably we will start in this year like the same day delivery or the 1 day delivery at least. And we charge that much amount only, right? So it's really the question on how we can make all of the process effective and efficient, leveraging the technology. So it's actually very interesting to see. Yeah, hopefully you guys have a chance in our warehouse, because for those who are interning in Lazada, especially the government program, the Campus Merdeka, we give them chance to visit our warehouse to see the processes, how the technology there, how we have the advanced technology to share the experience. So the technology is here. It's a different kind of the questions. We are talking the logistics. And if you are talking about, is it possible to deliver by drone, etc., again, the question is about the cost. How much the cost is worth it to do so? Or again, there was question, oh, should we deliver to like the Long Island that very little population? We can, but the question is, should we? Right? Sometimes it's not about the capability. Sometimes it's about whether it makes sense to do it in terms of company overall strategy, direction, and also profitability. So yeah, hopefully that answer.
Okay, thank you. Very clear.
I think if anyone from online would like to ask question.
Sir, I would like to ask.
Okay, yes, sure.
As we all know, the industry of e-commerce is growing so intense, and then the characters of our consumers will be very, very impulsive, and then they are very addictive to online shopping. And then what I concern is about the ways that is produced by the online deliveries, for example, like the bubble wraps, and then maybe the other plastic wraps. And the issue of environment is very, very urgent for now. Is there any, what could I say, such rules or even values that Lazada have to combat the number of waste from the online business process? That's my question, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thanks. Thanks for the question. And I think this is a very valid one because this relates with the sustainability, right? How we are able to run a business, also being considerate with our environment. And in Lazada itself, as I know, there was an initiative that we collaborate with the other brands in the regional regarding the sustainability. So we start with how we can use a more environmental friendly packages, and also how we can, use the most effective and efficient size of packages to reduce waste, etc., etc. In fact, also we are going to send a person in the logistic to learn the course about sustainability from a prominent school overseas. So this is to show the commitment that we also care about sustainability, and we want to keep improving our process so that we can also be a sustainable, friendly platform. Both in the, probably it's less relevant for the platform, but for the logistic, I do agree in all of the process, we start keeping the economical friendly. And another example is in our meeting room in logistic, for example, we do not provide water bottle anymore. So what we provide is a jug of water so that people can use that instead of we providing a plastic water bottle. So that's starting with the small things, but that's how we shows our commitment to the environment. Thanks for the question. That's actually great questions. And of course, that's aligning because we have a specific focus on the sustainability. Thanks for reminding on that point. Anyone from the online would like to ask a question?
Question. On
Yes.
page 11 of your presentation.
Yes, John.
On page 11 of your presentation, we can see that, on page 11 of your presentation, we can see that fewer number of merchants in Singapore and Vietnam transitioned to e-commerce during the COVID pandemic in comparison to the rest of Southeast Asian countries. Could that be an indicator that majority of the merchants in those two countries had already adopted e-commerce by the time pandemic arrived, and like the other Southeast Asian countries who were slow in adoption of e-commerce?
Yes, John, thanks for that point. And I think I do agree. I think that's one of the hypotheses, right? Because the maturity of how people are adapting with the technology, like the digital penetrations, how people are using phone to purchase online, it's different in a different market. So it can be one of the hypotheses why in a particular market, like for example, Singapore, it's much more mature in terms of the commerce comparing with Indonesia. But then you can also see how in the other countries, especially in the Southeast Asia, are actually very quick to adapting with the online ecosystem and online commerce, right? How people are quickly adapting from previously purchasing stuff offline into now purchasing stuff online. So yeah, thanks for the point.
Second question.
Yep.
One of the biggest, second question, question number 2. One of
Yes.
the biggest headaches in e-commerce for merchants is the issue of purchases returns. As it increases costs for merchants and platforms alike. So, what can be done to reduce returns of e-commerce platforms, e-commerce products?
Oh, so you are mentioning about the return product, right?
Yes.
Okay. I think for the return itself, in terms of the percentage, I think to minimize. Firstly, I mean, if the question is to minimize the return, coming back with how we are able to, because many reasons for people to do return, right? It can be first coming from the very valid reasons that the product that being sold is different, let's say, or the merchant made mistake when they are packing the product. Like people make mistake, and it's valid to do a return process. But then the return process also could happen because of the what we call like quote unquote the naughty sellers, like the sellers that put pictures very differently with the actual product is, so that people doesn't want to have it, and then they try to returning the product. So I think to minimize the return is really about um, to ensure that we have only the quality seller in our product, in our platform, and also to ensure that, you know, um, for the merchant itself, how easy the seller platform is in terms of for them to know, oh, this is the quality, this is the quantity, this is the color, this is the size, because seller also have the seller platform, right? And if it's easy for them to get the order coming in, very easy to read, for them very easy to make packaging of the product, creating the product, it's also helping minimizing the return on the defective product as well. That's coming from the seller side. If you are looking more holistically, the return also could happen because of the defect during the delivery. It can be the product coming from the seller, the good quality, but then the logistic that we use treat the product incorrectly. And this is also something that we monitor in Lazada Logistics. Like for example, there was a case where the courier just throwing the product. They throw the product to the trucks instead of putting it carefully. It can create damages as well. So not only coming from the seller side to minimize return, I think we also need to always have a strict standard operating procedures, a strict audit process. Even now in Lazada Logistics, not now, I mean even in the Lazada Logistics, we already have been having a department specifically audit and risk prevention, just to check whether all of our courier, because we are involving external parties. Can anybody guess how big is the independent contractor that we use in Lazada Logistics? The amount, like the courier, those who work in the warehouse. Can anybody guess in total how many people? Because we are actually also supporting them during the vaccination. Can anyone would like to guess the number? Non-employee, so outside our employee, the third party, the contractor. How many number? I don't know if someone said or not, right? Anyone here like to guess how many number of employees of the independent contractor? Courier, sorter, anyone? Wild guess? Wanna pick a number? 50, it's just too less. No, across Indonesia. All over Indonesia. Yeah? Million is too much lah.
Sorry, sir.
10,000, yes, that's correct. So we have like more than 10,000 independent contractors. So it's around 13, 14,000. And that's the scope of the logistic ecosystem is, right? We try to cover all over it. So John, for that questions, again, it can be seen from the seller perspective, it can be seen from the logistic perspective. But what we also do in the e-commerce is to ensure that the return process is also as seamless as possible. People are easy to do return, people are easy to get the refund as well. So I think that's also important point for us to consider. Thanks for the questions. Probably the last question.
Thank you.
Sampai jam until 3:30, right? So we only have like 3 minutes. Is that correct? Okay. Anyone here in the classroom? Boleh dari sini ya.
Okay, so my first question is, as you know, the digital transformation is making most of the organization to go online and start doing business through e-commerce models. And website personalization is something that can really attract, engage, and make the customers to buy on impulse. Therefore, I wanted to ask, to what extent does website personalization can help in creating urge to buy impulsively? That's the first one. And second one, nowadays, artificial intelligence played a big role in improving most of our daily activities. In e-commerce, chatbots, voice search, and other AI methods and tools can help users to have a better shopping experience. So what are other tools and techniques of artificial intelligence that can help in improving e-commerce? Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. But the question getting more difficult ya. There is no asking friend ya di sini ya. Okay, let me answer one by one, right? And I will start with the easiest one, the second one, because I think this is also an interesting things for me to emphasize when we are talking about the AI. And actually, you are correct. That's how we are being implementing in the e-commerce, right? The example that you said, for example, what anyone remember what he said? The implementation of AI in the e-commerce? Yeah? Gimana? Chatbot. That's the first thing, right? So this also make things effective, because like if people are asking how do I do return or refund process, it's a very basic general questions. Then they can just ask the chatbot, like we have Leo to answer like our chatbot, and we actually have team specifically for the AI to keep improving to make our chatbot smarter. Again, AI also needs to be fed with data, right? It's not automatically they're smart. The second application of AI, anyone would like, or algorithm, anyone would like to guess where? Buying recommendation. Wah, ini udah pinter-pinter semua ini, all smart. Yes, buying recommendation also use algorithm. And this is the things that we also try to keep improving. Yeah, the reason being because like how it can following the local nuances. Like because Lazada is a global company, and if it's driven by the regional team, sometimes the English word have the different nuances with bahasa. So this is the things that we keep improving on, how we can ensure that the bahasa buying search become more accurate and accurate. So if people looking for a specific search term, they will also get the relevant things. So I think that's the, if you are talking about the algorithm AI, that's the most application. Apart on that, what else? Anyone can think what are the application of technology of AI algorithm in the e-commerce? Anyone would like to make a guess? Yes, advertisement also, where the advertisement pop out. I think that's also, we are also using some kind of the algorithm to ensure that it comes out to the right target market. That's true. What else? Anyone would like to have another guess? What application? Probably this is a little bit more difficult. Eh? No one? Yes? Huh? Payment code? What does it mean by the payment code? Oh, okay. But that's I think that's yeah, that's more becoming the, I don't think that's a specific calcula. It's more like the BAU for the digital finance. But the things that what I would like to mention is the things that we use algorithm AI is related with our logistic. Why? Because when the product is being made, when the purchase is being made, then automatically it needs to detect the shop, right? Where does the shop located? And then it automatically link to which hub is the nearest to the shop. And then it come up with all of the options. So that's the backstage on how the delivery also happening. The choices, okay, so it needs to be driven by this hub and so on and so forth. So that's the application of the AI in the e-commerce. And great that, so that's why I like Q&A, right? It can really complementing the content that I deliver. The first one is the question on how the website personalization make the customer would like to purchase more, right? I think that's true. Why? Because people would be attracted to purchase. Yeah, and then that's why I mentioned, right, the shoppers, the user interface in the web, it's actually your storefront. That's why you need to put your brand color there. You need to make it easy for the people to find the product. The description need to be clear. If you would like to make a discount, it also needs to be clear as well. So it's very important. And again, how you come up with a different technique to make people buying more, bundling, and so on and so forth. That's becoming important. Because you can imagine that if the website itself is not attractive or it's very old school, how it can attract the buyer, especially a lot of buyer are young, right? And you guys are having a high expectation on seeing oh, this is nice, this is not nice. And that's why it's very important. And thanks for pointing that out. So that's very nice. Okay. So I think I would love to have more questions, but the time is limited and you have another sessions to join. Feel free to connect with me. I can be found on LinkedIn. You can connect with me there, drop me questions, so we can stay connected. And I will give it back to the moderator. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoy the session.
Thank you, everyone. Pak Yanuar, on behalf of IWIC 2022, we would like to express our deep gratitude for having you as our distinguished speaker. Thank you so much, and see you on the next session.